Joe West is in the news again, and it was just 2 days ago that he was in the news before. So what happened? There was an interview with USA Today where he and Jerry Davis were talking with Bob Nightingale because Nightingale wanted to do this story in an interesting way about COVID and the umpires. Two umpires, both 67 years old, both senior members of the staff, very similar, and they have opposite approaches on how they're handling it. Joe West has said he's working the season. Jerry Davis has opted out. Jerry Davis, when opting out, said it was really a no-brainer for me. In addition to his hypertension, he said, I just cannot risk taking this home to my family. I care too much. That can't happen. I'm opting out. Simple call. Again, you'll recall that the compensation package was high-risk individuals would get the full payout and a year's credit of service time. Jerry Davis and Joe West both have milestones coming up. Jerry Davis says, I can do it in 2021. West cannot actually get it in 2020, no matter what he would have it in 2021. The difference is it going to be June or July versus is it going to be April when it happens? Anywho, Joe West on the field. This is what he said that got MLBUA to respond, but not directly, and I'll talk about that in a second. West said, and this is a quote from Joe, the statistics aren't accurate. I don't care who's counting them. Our system is so messed up. They have emptied hospitals because there's no elective surgery. The government has been giving these hospitals extra money if someone dies of the coronavirus. So everyone that dies is because of coronavirus. I don't care if you get hit by a car. It's coronavirus. We do fact checks, so fact check. Yes, hospitals have been cleared out. Why have they been cleared out? The New England Journal of Medicine wrote back in June that the reason is we want to clear the hospitals from elective surgery and things like that because we want to make room for COVID-19 patients. We don't want to be caught with full hospitals when the spikes happen and surges and hospitalizations happen. Coincidentally, this past few weeks, Arizona and West's home state, or his state of residence, which is Florida right now, Florida have had spikes in hospitalizations for COVID. And Florida now, over 50 of the Florida hospitals have said, our ICUs are full of COVID patients. We can't take anymore. So the idea was clear out the hospitals so you have room to put people in. So if they didn't clear out the hospitals first, they might even have had less capacity than they already do, which is under capacity as it is. The second thing he said about the payments to hospitals, yeah, CARES Act, 20% Medicare patients. There's a 20% add-on for Medicare COVID patients. The idea is that the payment is meant to cover the cost of care and loss of business resulting from a shift in focus to treat COVID cases. That's consistent with the medical methodology as well. But West went on, and he said that not only are the deaths overblown, I have an example. And West's example was when country music singer Joe Diffie died, this was back in April, they said he died of the coronavirus. He had stage 4 lung cancer. The coronavirus may have accelerated his death, but let's be realistic. Fact check. Diffie's widow, Tara, spoke out back in April. My husband, Joe Diffie, did not have lung cancer. His father passed, same name, November 2018, to stage 4 lung cancer. Stop starting fake news. I've seen multiple posts, and it's upsetting to all of us. Well, he didn't have lung cancer. It's his dad, same name, different time. But when he died, they called it COVID. And when we have to figure out if it was COVID or cancer, probably COVID. Actually, speaking of cancer, on a sidebar that's quasi-related, Joe West had cancer in 2013. We did a lovely, lovely story there was because he became friends with Hawk Harrelson because of it back in 2013. And the story goes that Hawk heard about Joe having cancer because he hadn't been on the field for a little while. And Hawk goes into the umpire's room, barges in there and says, Joe, we can fight, we can yell at each other, whatever, but don't get sick on me, don't die on me. And they became friends because of it. So that was, it's a nice story. So visit us, find the link on our site. It's a great story to read, but that's just the sidebar on the cancer discussion. By the way, cancer might be a risk factor, prior incidences of cancer because compromised immune system from the past that carries on to the present. May or may not be. Anywho, so Jerry Davis says, can't take it to the family, can't risk it. Joe says, it's poppycock. MLBUA, not directly in response to Joe, but yes, in direct response to Joe, puts out the statement saying, Recent public comments about the current coronavirus pandemic do not in any way reflect the position of the Major League Baseball Umpires Association. Our nation and the world has suffered greatly from this deadly virus. In the midst of continued suffering, umpires are attempting to do our part to bring the great game of baseball back onto the field and into the homes of fans everywhere. They go on to say that regardless of any umpire's personal views, when we report for a resumed spring training in 2020 season, we will conduct ourselves as professionals and in accordance with the health and safety protocols. We look forward to being back on the field and so forth. Any umpire's personal views, not West. They didn't mention him or anything like that. West, you'll recall, is no longer, he was a past president of MLBUA. He's not the president right now. That went to Bill Miller after West was out. But they didn't mention him specifically, but regardless of any umpire's personal views, we all know who it is. When we report for a resumed spring training, we're going to conduct ourselves as professionals, and we're going to be in accordance with the health and safety protocols. So, interesting situation that's going on here, and we just, it's just, well, we try not to be political. That's the goal. We don't want to bring politics onto this site. We don't want to bring politics into these sports. And when the real world and the political world, for whatever reason, collide, it requires a delicate balancing act where we don't want to say, oh, yeah, the politics on this side are right and the politics on that side are wrong, or anything like that. But at the same time, it's important that when someone makes claims, that we fact check them. And if they make a claim that is partially true, we explain what's true and what's not. If they make a claim that's patently false, we say, that claim is patently false, and here's why. So just in this case, it's a situation where we had an interview with USA Today. Nightingale wanted to write a story about two different umpires who are very similar in age and in stature and all this, and how they're handling it very differently. One of them opted out, one of them opted in, and some of the comments that were associated with that told MLBUA, the government board of that umpires union, we need to put out a statement. And that's where we are. Visit us online at closecallsports.com, Facebook and Twitter at Umpire Ejections. We'll see you on the site.